Beginning with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Also, I've heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Altar Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. And through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage trained wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen clearly in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of a lineage, it is so. O son of a lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lamadan Kampo Jese Jame Lama Joselo Kagi Lulu Dini Teda Neda Nanda Rasave
Jene Dugu Jeje Tuch Nije Tuga Lumas Kanda Sebe Tere Mari Meto Duma Jeze Roto Kuna Puchi Tase Yala Puchu Yangde Roda Chedo Nemo Nilo Lije Chado Rozeje Mare Meze Dunganyu Jene Jende Radena Dene Daje Saju Tasu Yeden Luto Jase Tuyeko Jada Jada Juni Jete Dalo Meze Jabe Yana Badanadi Zanadi Arabasanadi Jeje Cherozeje Dalo Dimam Barasarami Kada Teju Jolo Tobayi Lodre Bobe Namata Tosu.
Continuing with the short now offering on page 16. Saji Buki
Joje Medona Rira Leye Nide Jemade Sanje Jingo Mide Purwaye Rogo Nanda Yana Jebonayo
Jetsun Nama
Tamba Chena Je Juga Kala Chinze Tete Cheda Tambe Duje Zemala Zaje Juje Jaba Wakoso
Yedam Guru
Rana Mendala Gane Yatayame.
Continue with the refuge prayer on page 22. Sanje Chadam
Soje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji Dagi Chuje Jibe Sonamji Rala Benjire Sanje Drogora Sho
Sanje
Chudang Soje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji Dagi Chuje Jibe Sonamji Rala Benjire Sanje Drogora Sho
Sanje
Shedang Soje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji Dagi Chuje Jibe Sonamji Rala Benjire Sanje Drogora Sho当时想给唱的钱呢，昨天打了大单位，绿了说送我家了，送我家说多把送什么的多，昨天打了大单位，绿了说送我家，唱多把送什么的，在这里啥都学的，得了绿送刚些呢，那把就光把的，我都到嘛学的，这种在公安里啊，那么说，之前那么就弄这些绿老师我送我家，马上我就讲了，干么就把这些进，第一时间我就吃有些那么东西，昨天到了大单位绿老师我送我家，这个的，昨天的绿送当给，昨天，昨对的电把他几个些吧，他那就说那里呀，昨天的机械是的，昨对的机电把当，那对吧？追的几个些呢？다다는데 내가 뉴스 가시 나시 같은 거다 저 뉴스 당에 지시돼 용어도 제 공원에 너한테 맞대 그래서 단도대 지신이 뭐 다리 상대 지시는 거 줘야 때문에 너한테 나니 너한테 달았다 눌러서 무슨 자서도 저 단도대 쇼다다래야 아니 그래서 넘버 끊어 소소 도서 장수에 지니 다니 아니 릴라서 봐 송한 제거레스 어떤 송도와 제가 내가 하면서 제가 트레이닝 다 류스야 될 건데 돼요. 그래서 야야야 상담 거지. 야 류라서 소마제들 류스인데 그게 시각이 따바 때문에 거지. 아니 저 라문이 다 유대는 소다. 내가 자와 친구 계집모 시각이 그게 안전히 안 숨로이네요. 다 대문도 제가 먼저 근데 류라서 소마 자세 근데 류 그런게 내단데 류 그런 거 라이데 류 그런 거 도단데 류 그런 거 라이다 뭐 안테 가네이면 대단히 양파 강소마지 류 그런 거 라이데 가네이면 대단히 양무서 니도치 그러나 나와서 어디는지
So previously we have completed the verse, beginning from verse 1 to the 6th. So last week we discussed on the verse 6, where it says, therefore you should protect your body and so on, so that you can be useful to sentient beings. So that they can be useful to sentient beings by not abandoning your spiritual teachers and by constantly reading the sutra. So that is, we discussed on this particular verse during our last session. And so this two verse, the verse 5 and verse 6, actually talks about this. In other words, it's about the condensed or abbreviated explanation of how to protect our body, our good gains and so forth. And now from the 7th verse, it explains the detail of how to protect our body, good gains and so forth. So now here, when we look at the verse, it emphasizes the importance of protecting one's body. And the way we protect our body must be one's body must be protected. In other words, one's body must be protected in accordance with the teachings of the Dharma. It is for this the verse 6 suggested that by not abandoning spiritual teacher and by constantly reading sutras. So now, when we look at this emphasizes on importance of protecting one's body, there's a possibility that we may look at our body as something that is so stable, something that is constant and unchanging. For that, we have to be aware of it. Instead, we need to focus on how this body is created, what is the actual mode of existence of this body, what is the nature of this body, and the body that we would like to protect must be analyzed very carefully. Is the body that I'm protecting, is it something that is permanent? Or is it something that exists or in and of itself, or it exists intrinsically? So this should be analyzed. Otherwise, without going through these analyzations, when we talk about emphasizing on protecting one's body, we may have the idea of having this body as something that is independent existence, which is again problematic.
dan wo tama le lu do 류대지 뭐다 강바다 노데 자서 모두 통하이고 류지도 다 되게 류대 당번이 되게 주요를 되게 말고 sama 시에지로 제가 다 말도 나주 제발 맞이니 이샤샤 되는 거 대야게 상로 주요래 말도 사마로 요래 양바이 신주 전도비 칼래야 도바자야게 내모 부지엘레 그래 제가 다른 말도 류요래 류대 단담을 요래고 좋아 이내 되게 류담을 간다 좀 동보 류대 간다서 좀 말이서 먼저 류대 동보 용산도 그때 밤에 고잘 때니 중화제래 밤에 고자 누가 때니 아니 류도 줘버래 제가 밤에 고자는 류도 줘봐라 한 대단 나도 총에게 시바지고 하고 요래 제가 남이 주게 손다지나 되네 제가 된데 시바지 지원 레비가냐 된데 시바지 땡지 동에게 류지 하고 요래 제가 대 아무도 매형의 지원이나 다 매형의 지원은 맞지로 봐 맞지 자고래 제가 근데 밤에 내가 제발 때니 근데 강수의 왕기 근데 방에 만원도 류되게 내내게 줘대 다 밤에 그 고란 되니 그러고 그래 대나니 지왕감에게 근데 시바지 대나는 여산자고 그러와 대대 초발 때니 류도 조용 거를 마도 대나는 여산장에게 지한 송바 시바지면은 밤에 고란이 누가 짱날 류들이 주고 그랬나 그러고야 말해 남의 쇼한테 송어래 저한테 이제 모두 동보를 류들 중단데 당도 숨어지 류들다 류들 동보 용사 그 줄로 지 밤에 고랄 때네 또 소용이 지래 저한테 이제 대대 동보 중사를 류 그런 거 본인의 준다고도 옆에 선보 새벽에 모두 자와치 못 사는 거 지다 새벽에 땅만 거 지다 근데 새벽에 다바로 개요 말해 그 탑차 하는 마자와 어떤다 지기 아니 내가 주제발 때니 모두 류의 당부 된다지니 정말에 되네 어또 많이 나래야 배는 치니 아니 제제제제서 때는 뒤지 차니 모두 많이 철제 바로와 철제비 가래야 당부 도마 차비가 류다 아니 나기 철제비 류니래야 다 체중다 저다다 뭐라 뭐처럼 가서와 대바른 주아시비 가서와 제가 된다 티오도 대바로도 갈상다고다 류대 주의 라지 봐 주어 라지 봐 지상당 그래 제가 모두 류대 따바 많이 봐서 그렇다 류대 따바 많이 류 따바는 단지 주대 간사 요와 류 따바 많이 봐 주의 라지 봐스 근데 류다 하장게 싸마다 다바시는 되는 거요래 뭐 싸마 되는 건데 류대 신벽이 제 싸마다 다바시란 많이 봐 거의 준을 받을 밤에 고라 마상할 때니 어느 때서 중앙지에 상담을 제가 되니 제제
So we all have a body that we know, and limbs and so forth, such as our body associated with our limbs and leg, so on and so forth. So normally we look at our body in two ways. And the one way that we look at our body without going through any analysis, we just take it for granted that I have a body. You have this, instant idea of having a body along with our limbs and so forth. And there's another way of looking at our body by analyzing our body, going through each and every part of our bodies. So, however, when those bodies are carefully analyzed by reflecting one's mind upon how this body is coming into being. And what is actual cause of this body, which we all know about it, is actual cause of our body, this present body, is the substance, the combination of substance of father and mother. With this combination of substance, the body is formed, our physical body is formed. Having formed this physical body, which then consciousness that enters into the body based on the karmic connection with his parents and so forth. So now the body which is formed within the womb of mother should have certain ability of becoming a basis for entrance of consciousness. And consciousness that is entering into it must have a certain karmic connection with the parents as well. The body, our body's actual substantial cause, the substantial cause of our body is the substances, the combinations of the substances of father and mother, the combination substances of father and mother. And now just having this in a combination of substances alone will not sufficient to form a beings or someone who can be recognized as a person or self. It is only when the substances are formed as a body of the individual, and then there's a consciousness that enters into it, which then becomes a complete sentient beings, in other words, or the human beings in this particular context. So, so now, if you look at our body, when we talk about protecting our body, we should not just think of protecting our body just blindly or just without going to any analysis, but think about how this body is coming into being. Is the body that we're trying to protect, is it something that is permanent? Or the body that we're trying to protect is something that is independent? This is, however, is important to analyze. And because the body that we have, right from the beginning of it is coming into existence within our mother's womb, it went through a transition. It went through a lot of changes momentarily without a break. There has been a change. So therefore, one should not grasp onto one's body as something that is permanent. Because as I mentioned earlier, the body that is coming into existence within the mother at the time when the time right from the beginning of the time of coming into existence of that body within the mother's womb, it began to going through this transition, and it keeps changing. So therefore, with this idea of understanding a body that is constantly being, remaining under the condition of transition, one will then be able to dispel view of eternalism with regard to one's body. And not only that, but also we look at our body as something that is very, very pure, and we, think ourselves, this body that we have is something that is marvelous, or something that is pure and clean. But if you go through our body, each and every part of our body, inside out, then we all know that's not very pure. A body is simply composed of blood, flesh, bones, and so forth. And none of this part of our body has something that is pure. But we have this idea, often we do have this idea of seeing one's body as a very pure and something that is permanent, something that exists independently. So the reason why we were talking about this is because when we think about protecting our body, we should not have that kind of idea. We should dispel this kind of idea. And because when we emphasize on protecting one's body, if you have this kind of view, then your view will be dominated by all kinds of wrong views, such as view of eternalism, view of absolutism, view of absolutism, and so forth. So therefore, it's very important to think about when we talk about protecting one's body. One should. It is very crucial to think about how this body is coming into being, how the mode of existence of this body, what is the nature of this body, and so forth.
Tani review muzo lydia nasu, tani kan sochi, kortachi, tadaji review ya juachini, tosche, review jesu ya tani yan lydia naita mando, bima nayak tsumi, kiba nayak tsumi, ani ya review gengo cha. Ani gengo cha tama muzo da chiwa sing 들어와 저기가 나시고 동에서 ani lydia löyde tolachi rubi kale löyde la tembe shiba teya ente karne matwache ane löyda seni tendeme njewa de chen rubi kale ane shese adere jaza shese jele ane mudu löyde kare chagana tene tumange ba shese jele ya tene kare sagore ji shikam jele wa jane thalo lo ji majena tena shajen tene tumakane 대시다 틀려야 전 드럼들에 차용도 저런데 저게 다들 가르때 가르는 소리 거주단 거에서 난 무슨 신주지는 가르내 거나 만도 르데 토마 마사웨지 tenda chigi nene ju chiwa tini dos ane rinpi juwa chini tabi rangi ma tabi rangi ane matawa zi tenda teni maa yonde tama maa ten juwa chini teni tambo chung chung te ane chimbo cha ane chimbo de chuma cholan rani ane kake pechi chimbo rangi chan roya ko tenda ji reba ngoso luye de te kar chogwa na ane luye de matawa yiba ta ane luye de matabi rangi yiba juye ke rangi yiba taba tembo meba tengo zo ra chugo yore shinju chena ta te ra chuna mara zo ra yore ra ma chuna karne yore na mara zo solo ta chiba yore mara zo meda me pale pension desha che yore mada me pale kontro che yore mada me pale chado che yore mada me pale drese che yore chada tane ni chi chi le ne ba chendo kono che yore kwanzi che yore mada me pale tezo yung diya de mara zongoy ne tsu da na yung mozo ji me tongso ko le song diya tsama de me de lu le teni mozo da me tongso le warwa me de lu tongso teni me tongso no oto ji ne jogo da wa cheda da tene yin mara zo na ju 제가 류를 때는 잡아쟁이 류를 때는 건드쟁이 어두서 연구해 근데 그 늦춰서 지금 늦출 따와 있나요? 늦춰게 늦출 따를 거래 근데 토지마다 뭐 연구해 가이 따라 때는 잡아쟁이 가이 따라 때는 건드쟁이 요래 저한테 나 용대 소소가 따당 지금 뭐니 용대하지 마도 파적이 류에 잡아 다지도 잡아지서 위에 잡으면 다지도 걸어지서 위에 잡아요. 근데 이런 거라서 류가 나셔야 돼. 또 성문에 그지만 지들이야. 신유야 제게나 소소문이 류를 때문에 잡아둬야. 류를 때문에 컨트롤도 하야. 류를 때문에 단수도 하야. 류를 때문에 어느 방에 저 덴버 주변에 댄스도 하야. 되게 치가 연구를 해서 근데 주변에서 다 다른 논문을 시작을 받아가나 류는 주의라게 해봐. 마다비라게 해봐. 마다비라게 해봐. 대고대 되는지.
So if you look at our body, we know that there's a constant change is taking place. Right from the beginning, just think about that at the moment that we were given a birth by one's mother, we have no teeth in our there's not a single tooth in our mouth, no hairs. We're a completely different body. We had a completely different body. But then it changes rapidly. It changes constantly without a break. Although that for us as ordinary beings, we can see change after a while, but the actual change is, taking place without a break. Very subtle change are taking place without a break. It is then, at some point, we see that we are grown up, toddlers, and then grown-ups, we're able to walk. And then we begin to age, and you see ourselves that I'm aging. And then we get all kind of pains and discomforts in association to one's body, such as having knee problems, back problems. And then once all those are progressing, then final destination is to make a ultimate journey, which is the time of death. And once we are, when the death occurs, when one is, is completely dead, then one's body becomes useless. And after a while that the individual who ceased to breathe, and a very shortly after that, then the body begins to change its color, and it began to, going through it will go through the process of decaying. It will decay and start to get unpleasant smells and so on. So that indicates the actual body very causes the body, and that the body itself is not pure. It is not very clean. If the body was clean, if the body was pure, it should remain always pure. If the body was pure independently, if the body was pure in and of itself, it should be pure at all times. It should be something that is desirable and something that is attractive all the time. However, it's not the case. It goes through all kind of transition And when we go through the transition, it becomes less desirable. So, so then becomes a useless. So this, body that we have, we should understand how this body is coming into being. What is the causes of our body? How the body actually going through its changes. If one is able to understand all those realities, we're not focusing on that at all most of the time. We do not think about the reality of body. It is because of lack of understanding the reality of body. One generates anger, hatred, sense of competitiveness, animosity, and so on and so forth. Regarding by looking at the body of others. When we talk about I'm angry with such and such person, we have no any other object that to be pinpointed other than the person's body. You look at that person's body and looking at the person's behavior, his body's behavior, body language, and so forth, and we interpret that and we make a story out of it. Maybe that is a good story or a bad story. Why this is happening is because we are not understanding actual mode of existence of the body. We're not understanding the nature of our body. If we are able to understand the nature of our body, mode of existence of the body, and those negative thoughts and emotions such as anger and hatred will not generate, as it generates very constantly within us as ordinary beings. So therefore, understanding of actual mode of existence of the body, understanding of this transient nature of one's body, something that is very, very crucial. Because with this understanding, it will lessen the generation of attachment, anger, a view of eternalism, and self-grasping. So therefore, it is always important, particularly as a practitioner of Dharma, important to think about, reflect one's mind upon the transient nature of our body and the impurity of our body and non-existence of the body by itself, in and of itself, sorry.
Tene yungu lula soba sunga jas, terang yungu sunga ki lute neta choju tenare. Ta niba jira sang ta yungu kale chi mazambi ki lu ju rangye jen tenra ji yodirwa. Chata ta tenda yu lute kono muwa de kandra ji dupa shinju chi jen dupi kale dos 소소고 류 소소소를 신주는 거 소소고 류에서 상담 류에 뭐네 그 간다지도 이기 전에 간다지도 가도 전에 간다지도 근데 바체는 그거다 소소 류에서 무슨 조수세 주여서 그러와 자상 다도 조수 바체를 그거라 소소 라파니 제 컴퍼니 그런 거다 뭐 차상유 되지래 다 류에서 가들에 럽지 상부베제 있는 거 기존에 간디바게 차상의 배제 르레스란다 가버래 레데 르레 얘네다 대나니 라바니의 파py니 라바니 파py에 라바니 파py니 인처럼 류가들은 다들 하마테 저런 르레란도 가버래 대더니 컴퍼니의 파py나 다 컴퍼니의 라바니 파py나 아닌데 아마 도도데다 르레데 대인란도 가버래 대내림비 뭐도 파py나 아니 다다 바로게 도도데 배제 르레스 나 가버래 다테나니 림비 달아봐 도미니 소주고니 에야나 저와데 바베 엔타나는 주마다 다니는 로아 좀 레레치는 바 세간도 그랬더니 레레레 바차기를 체네 바 랜도 그래 타만타만들 르스네 아니 누구도 좀 들어가고 뭔가 다 라바지는 무슨 르고로 간다이도 그래 근데 차려도 제가 다 자기 요도 르이즈와나 아니 라바지 메나 걸 르메서 그래 مثل لو يبغى لو ما بدي نقارنه أنا لو يسوي أنا لو ما يسوي كذا他شون ردا جنا ينا يبي كوتشو منا مبي كومشو سياجوري كذا لابا يجي منا يقول لو يسوي كل لابا يجي مبي جزء كل لو مدوزنا متاعي مشوروا لابا ني مينجي إشنا يوم جرا كل لو دوسروا أنا كم بدل لابا شجع مينجي كم يوروا تلا يأكل لون دوسروا تام غام مينجي مده بيجي يجمعه جدا تا ميوائنا تا دوس لون دبتم دوس با شاشي رد با چني لون ساج با تلو بكره تني تما تلا يا تان ده بيجي لون ريسياگي مو جنيا ندو هتا مو توها ت شاريگي جودو لوجي تما ليا جتاگي تلو بكره أنا شاشي رد با چلو تما ده لون ريسياگي نيجي مدوا 소소로 바치기 괜찮은 거라고 뭐네 봐 두고야 게임 소소로 뭐네 컴퍼니네 봐 라파니네 봐 고아데 봐 비나 원래 내가 저거 살려도 내가 저거도 나한테 주마 달로 메로 근데 나에게 되는 니가 소를 받으서 타마타마는 뭘 lös해야지 라고 누르면도 들어가면도 근데 얘도 나비고 쇼는 말이야 다들 모두 르라서 숨하자서 소소 숨고야 그 기침고 이바 대기는 자는 시고 남비 쇼는 지다 출간의 진바이나야 다들 내야 주는 메시지를 다 담이 담아고만 다주 요래야 다들 아는 데리스야게 너도 내야 메시지를 제가 다들 집에 내야 메바 이거다 출간의 진이나야 아는 뒤에 주고 주요 말해서 제가 출간의 진에 또비 따장 근데지 이해돼야지 대는데 또비 따장 뭐를 여대하게 무엇 되게 자와 자상 제대하지 뭐다 맞지 병원에 샤샤와는 그런 자와 자상 제대하지 다 이제로 이나 근데 내야 주는 봐 어떤지 서버다 남비쇼는 자상 어떤에 미쳐네 남이 뭐네 최근에 지마이나 근데 라문이 그게 동아예 서버래 라문이 그게 동아예들 동반이도 줄서 동반에서 그렇죠 동반에서도 근데 다들 내야 용이 라문이 주바들지 매서 그래 동발에 근데 매서 그러면 저다 가야 매서라고 해야 말해 저는 말아서 단다 르라서 숨어자서 르대야 마다 맞지 병원에 모든 거 달라고 가면 뭐 주여때 다 이제로 와이나 가야 내지면 같은데 제세 그러게 뭐인지 듣는데 제세 제가 근데지 시버제니 르라서 숨어자 서도 늘 세전나죠 런주하고 저도 오늘 소야가 르데 오늘 마다가 주체래 정대하게 오늘 주의라야지 방문에 딱 있잖아는 내야 명예게 된다지 근데 답답해 다 잠시 마다 마지막에 오기 샤나 그 자와 제대는지 딱 있잖아 오늘 가야 되지만 봐 된다지 라기지 예서 상으로 거와이나 오늘 소소문이 르라 차봐 르라 뭐비 오늘 차도 당하자 르라 집에 오늘 나도 두건 좀봐 저도데 오늘 고무된데 소소게 저 컨트롤 제사고요 시간 제사고요 이건 제사고요 대 문제도 신도를 거래 소소문이 디벨롭 된지 때마 매바차 단지 때마 매바차 아니 배마서 왔다는 집에 매바 또 차는 거래 어느 소소문이 컨트롤다 예나 된지 매비 거래 아니 semba chibota so jawa kare jawa de muyune su de tamba ani jawa zambo tendaji du tuan bogorwa cha tendaji yang do le so suwa jawa sum kare le ze san ta be kare le de ne da de ji yes te yi mi mo so mo che de tani le so an de ji ge ji re
So on the one hand, we talked about importance of protecting our body for the benefit of all our beings. So on the other hand, that we talked about the body are in nature, they're not pure, and they're not something that is to be that is attached to be, and so now here, as we mentioned earlier, that importance of going through a critical analysis of one's body, the actual mode of the existence of the body is something that is very, very important. Normally, when we talk about our body, we think of a body as something that exists in and of itself. We think of the body that exists independently. We think of the body that is, that exists, that is unchangeable. But if you go through this critical analysis, if you really discover the actual mode of existence of the body, actual mode of the nature of the body, it is other way around. Let's think about let's take our time to reflect in our mind on our body, to think about the shape of our body, the color of our body. And similarly, we have all those limbs, hand, legs, and organs and everything inside us. And thinking our body beginning from our crown of one's head all the way to the tip of the sole of one's feet. Now, if the body exists, something that can be pinpointed, something that can be found, it should be found within that, right? From the tip of from the crown of one's head all the way to the sole, we should be found sole of one's feet. We should find our body within this, because we can't claim that my body is somewhere else and I'm here. It is contradictory. If you really take your time and carefully think which part of the body is my body, which one can be pinpointed, something that can be pinpointed as my body? Is there your head is your body? Is your hand is your body? Or your leg is your body? Or going through each and every organs inside our body is this body? Which one is body? So if we go through each and every part of one's body, and body that we always cherish become unfindable. It is for this reason, according to the teachings of the Buddha, where it says, everything that exists is mere dependent upon its own causes and conditions or the other factors. Everything that exists, if you go through a critical analysis, after the final analysis, that become unfindable. And things exist mere depending upon its own factors, that is, other factors. And it exists mere imputedly existence, in other words. There is no such thing that exists independently or in and of itself or intrinsically, which is based on the view of Madhyamaka Prasangika. It's just if we go through the critical analysis of everything's an event, will become unfindable, something that cannot be found as an independent existence, or something that exists in and of itself. And if one is able to have such an idea with regard to one's body, then one will be able to understand how this body is coming into being, how this body is coming into being. What is the cause of the condition behind this body? And what is the nature of this body? So you're able to discover reality of our body. By discovering this reality of one's body, one will not have attachment, anger, the view of eternalism, or the view of true existence will no longer be there. Because the reason why we are having this attachment towards one's own body and aversion with regard to others' body, or sense of competitiveness, jealousy, and so forth, is all because we are not being able to discover the reality of the body, the reality of mode of existence of the body. And without understanding the reality of this body, reality of this, everything that we do will become, unrealistic. And that view of unrealistic views will then becomes a cause of our unhappiness. So the reason why we need to understand actual mode of existence of the body, the reality of our body, is because at the moment that you discover the reality of our body, will ease your mind, will calm your mind. Because you know that up until now, I've been so attached to this body. The way that I have I don't even have a proper understanding of my body, and I'm having an attachment towards that. And then you realize that doesn't make much sense. So this will really help you to reduce your negative thoughts and emotions. As a result, one will be a happier person, calmer, happier person. So therefore, when we talk about here, protecting our body, we should always think about not just protecting body, that the view of concrete existence of body, but to be able to think about actual mode of existence of all these bodies.
Today you do it in Turkey, so yang sala tang to ina. So tende you do the shivichi so zambo ju ina ya. Tele tembi tsele gibi maje jiari ya numro re. So zambo ji menge ina ya tsele gibi ji seba shunde ya ta. So masa zombo ya tende ke yo mare jeda. Tende re tenaji tende ge lu ne tande rangi ge lu yo tende ne tande shina. Ana kanda rangi lu te tsele gibi jiban se guya ke yo mare. Tsele gibi jiban manza wala pengare. Jeda yele ya ane che so na botan. Xianle tong chung se na bo. Teso de no to ro re. Jeda tende ge ne ju ji shin so le ya. Lu le tembe 今年的这里主要呢，西北个热浪面吧，但这给几个给嘛，他个旅个行业的嘞，他都可以用有把几用不嘞， 시라시라 생리 제구야 로일 무쇼하게 동네 제구야 개야 말해서 소소 무슨 뭐 바깥에 되게 그래네 말도 정말 맞지 못한 나서 유하다 시구야는 뭐 성이 찍어래 다 된대 그래야 소소 세네 망다 뭐요 해도 정우인에서 토마토나 사타이나 소소를 뭐발 내나서 좋아이네 시베게 로일 무쇼베게 네 생리 제구야다 지중부야 노트나 기문 tendal pe pendo chimbore jaza de tendal gi sozo kangen done jiwala ene kangen ma chingo de sozo mui ne shinju chen lo le kondi teni ene sozo junga ya bi chena ene mui ne ba sozo le kangen de yubi kale ane sozo ge jambe kondi tembe la ji de ane mane ba ge sozo kangen de done che to ba ji yongore ma to ene sozo tomi ya kondi kangen ma te ba lo ba to ji kangen jubi kale ane na sa 사람단 투자에 그래 가버려. 저한테는 이제 르라스고 소마티아 세데 르 소야 르 사람단 그래 르게 내다나 소소 르게 사람단 저한테 견도 양양 군데 땡이나 소소 내 앞에다 주어야 되지래.
If one is able to understand the actual mode of existence of the body, the reality of one's body, then even when someone has a very attractive body, the individual will not have a pride with regard to with regard to one's body, will not have pride and self-attachment, in other words, pertaining to one's body. And even if one's body is not really attractive, or someone whose body is not that, in other words, unattractive, if one's body is unattractive, there will be no discouragement because you know the actual existence of the body. And with this understanding, one will reduce the self-cherishing mind, which is source of our human problems. The sentient being's problem is coming into existence because of this self-cherishing mind. And rather think about, well, if one is able to understand this nature of one's body, then when one undergoes sicknesses, or if one is suffering from sickness, some kind of sicknesses, one will be able to become more patient. One will be able to withstand with these problems because we understand that sickness is part of our life. And death will be followed. Later or sooner, we all have to go through this process. We have no escape from that. So understanding, the reality is something that is very, very important because we become overwhelmed and uncontrollable and excruciating pain and suffering when we think about when we discover something is going on with one's body, such as very serious illness and so on and so forth, is because we are not being able to understand the actual mode of existence of the body and nature of our body. If one is able to understand the nature of one's body and actual mode of existence of body and all those kind of problems can be seen as a part of our body. And we will be able to withstand with all these problematic situations. And having understanding of this will have those benefits. So again here, when we talk about protecting our body, it is always good to reflect one's mind upon like the mode of existence of the body, the nature of our body, the reality of our body.
근데 야 뭐서 초지기 전에 상담이 저단 류는 내가 되는 일인데 야도 류서 숨어자 세대 그냥 상담에서 뭐 알도 류들 때니 야 저 잠불 치면 뭐 부르도 토요래 대다가 준sel 때니 류들 때니 아니 제라기 닌자래야 아니 땡도 되지 토야 저 잠불 뭐 부지 류들 때 토니 루토 예배 준sel 때니 아니 류디야 뭐 숨으래 예서워래 저다 류 숨세야 되는 것도 류 요린도 쳐야기 류도 제고 요래 아니 소소 저 주된 제고나 가르제고나 다저당 뭐서 쇼하느냐 치위 내가래 지 뒤에서 치와도 뒤 많이 비치와도 나시게 뒤 많이 비치와 과야기 뭐서 배서 제가 되나 얘기 소소하게 류 숨조 제네 소소 숨조 제마 돈이 내나서 저 포나 다들 주스면 말이 제약해요 말이 마토지고 소소문이 강요 지용기 류들이 내나서 봐와 류도 유리 못 쳐야게 소소문이 제 갈아서 단계 주내래 다더니 제 상로 당당래 다나 지금 루루 부주 쳐베 다제 세바를 유하게 상하다 뭐보여 제 당나 나서도 토니 너도나 라인니베게 저와 상보지 류인데 되니 그것도 요소상 대대가 준들 때네 근데 양류디 전부 쳐도야게 뭐서 주대한 가지 저절에 대단 많은 나고 기침을
So here now, when we talk about the body, something that is impure, something that is, unclean and so forth, we should not think of the body as something that is useless again here. If this is so, then the teachings that we find here will be not effective. So it says protecting one's body, right? The reason why we talk about the impurity of our body and to know more of the existence of the body and so forth is to understand the actual the reality of our body. Because without understanding the reality of our body, when something undesirable circumstances occurs with regard to one's body, the one will become overwhelmed. Because here now, although that we talked about the body being impure and so forth, by having this body can engage in all kind of actions that are beneficial to others. We can engage in noble activities which become beneficial for countless beings. And by having such body can accomplish an everlasting happiness of oneself and that of other beings. In order to do that, we need to live long. Because without accumulating merits and purifications, there is no way that we can, become ourselves as a cause for accomplishment of happiness of other beings and one's own happiness. We cannot accumulate merits and purify one's negativities within a short period of time, because the negativity that we have accumulated is from beginning of this time up until now. It requires a lengthy period of time. So, therefore, one thing that we talked about protecting one's body is to be healthy, maintaining our health and preventing untimely death. Of course, when such illness that are something that is incurable, something that cannot be cured, then that is a different case. Otherwise, we should always prevent ourselves to do something that becomes the cause for untimely death, because we need to, prolong our body for the benefit of other beings. And there are many other, exercises that becomes one's body, healthy, such as meditation on the, 9 rounds of, breathing exercise by focusing on one's, inhalation and exhalations are very, very good exercise. So therefore, one should put in effort to have a healthy body and a long life.
제가다 류스마데 라제 거라 페베 자와 삼보체 루투에서 예수는 대전에 이번에 다 쇼노는 신전나지 로주에 류라서 소마자서도 신전남지 로주에 제도 류라서 소마자서 포토송도 아마도 류데 소소레야 라디오주에 제도 이마다 류스 사마 이마다 아니 시베 피다바 이마데 주도 그거도 신전남지 로주에 류라서 소마자서 너무 류데 칸토도 소니 아니 류데 제세 정도 초과돼서도 아니 신제 연이야. 근데 배다가 또 루트에 기침벌에.
The reason we talk about protecting one's body again here, is to benefit oneself and that of other beings. It already mentioned in our the verse 5 or the 5th verse where it says, the body and so on are given for the use of sentient beings. But what is meant by for the use of sentient beings is to becoming oneself as a cause for happiness of other beings.
어떤 저거잖아.
Some questions. Yeah.
I guess I've thought about these things and tried to meditate on them. The ingrained self-cherishing is so deep that even with trying to cultivate mindfulness, I very frequently forget. So the same things arise. And part of the problem is I am concerned that poor practitioner that I am, what are my chances of finding another human body when I leave this one? It's good to prolong your life so you can accumulate very purifying activities. But one of the things that concerns me is whether I'll be able to do it again in a future life. So what advice can you give?
This is a Yamete called it that Shan the Pension Chair Kandaji that then the Kandaji Tigelia, where the Timber in the slave or was some of the Yamete called the Asum one. They were in that the brigade. 大家要不这边呢，你就跟着真正的修其他的学姐，是吧？真正修其他的学姐，他真些个在那边呢，我真正的个样，向往的就这个，所以的公路可在修前边，什么可是当然呢，真正向往的就这些都是，这些。你说着，你讲的说放在去，年龄吧，就。 但难道不是那边的？但你们被搞不起呗？因咋？你们被搞不起个钱呢？在今天这个搞不了，他我真正学其他的，这别个好些的，其他你们那里啊，看到光电这个都是这些。今天你这个在朝鲜的时候，的财政部对接，这。 你们个刚才姐姐，你说出去可说这个帮了你教的，怎么就都对啊？什么是当过的呢？你的那样的呢？这种我这个考虑的样子，电脑那里就是你们的教育什么都没得啥呢？今天看那个车子要个样，忙不了，这个去都是的那面是不是的？对的。 duga niya tinte kyu tinte samya samso tinte kangayla sembe na tinte legos antara ya kita kolishna na songto.
Reda, jinsi sangde lilamu juyo mariro, jinsi da lilamu juyo mari inaya, rangi badbi jinsi de dowala, mara sanata de nami chuto ne karinduwa yugurna, tenjin rinpa yunga asiyata inimi sanata mure, tegi pendo tende yore. Rangi ba shiba jinsi yungi karaya, rani tsoya tang, rani cheba ne zuni mashipa de, rani cheba ji tsoto du mando, shen kasa tuyo zaya inanda, tunya inanda, goya inanda, soso ka dedu ka nensu shesa inanda, tsama de shen tuni chanya yungu yore, ngaro so shinju chega mera mato, ngaro so shinju ma jini, zaya inanda, tunya tsama de, ngaro rangi kale jini junshayi, ngaro rangi pozo shayi, ngaro lojan jini kundi yinsa, te tengu yore de, ngune shinju chega ina, che lojan jini, lojan di peche tansa de la yen tuni peche tangu yore, tenda yindi, tenda ki rang jinsi shu chimbo yungi kare, tenjin ribate, rang yen penzu tuni tsogu yoba, teni tsogu yoba, shen ma te pala rang jibo tsogu meba, tenda yindi, teso nensu yabo yi santana, o da mara zi shibu shibu ke chimbo tuyoke remunduwa, mara te tsoya de, mara twara ji towa se karse gore, chungo tobo cha yoba te, koso ki jujin teni chungo was, pina pembo ina, mimo mina pembo kane yore, yu shigu mewa, lama mina lama yu shigu mewa, misi mba misi mina pembo yu shigu mewa, lumbo mina jabo yu shigu mewa, tasa tsuma te, pembo yin san shira shira ki poba jaya ke mewa, mima teni chunga cha dego yorwa, lama ina lama teni chunga cha, nga ina gajul teni chunga cha rwa, tanda ka pa to se, tenjin tibi na yad pa sana ji tangi na, ane shiba shiba ki rang jiba zaya ki rang mendo asak, de sana ji koyo wala chisa, tazo de jun zaya tongwe tani rang jinsi te mbanjwa jaya kare mata jaya, kusu jani rang jinsi nudu lua sha zaya ki rang jinsi nudu lua mara. Tanda ji raya ane tanda ki jun zaya tongwe tani, tanda ni musu nana ya koji sakara ta soso ke, sana ji tangdo, sana di jaja jaya tanga soso kondi de yawa chi tol ten tusu na, tse kaza jida tsuwa ina ya, soso lo degi tse zimbi tani, ane mi ti ju chong tuwa ju yung gore. Da chida na gewa ya chani, shire shita lingi pa liya lingi pa saa yira chila hame ha. Tani re.
Self-cherished mind is something that is not easy to get rid of at all. This practice, the way we practice, one of the sole purpose of our practice is to having a serious combat with that self-question and hoping to gain a victory over it. However, it's not easy. If we constantly practice, and there's always possibility. Although how hard it may be, the grasping itself is something that is baseless. It is a no valid supporter or supporting. It can be, eradicated by going through a critical analysis of how the self-grasping is coming into being. With the way the self-grasping think about the self is something that is non-existence. And so self-cherishing. So therefore, for that, the most effective methods to overcome self-cherishing mind is reflection upon the dependent originations. Because this self-cherishing mind always cherishes us, and thinking about that whatever that I have is I did it by myself. Right? I I am educated. I received teachings. I have all this education in me, and you never think of we really forget how your education is actually you are ever how you become educated. We never think of that. And when you become a successful business person or the businessman or woman, I'm a successful, independent businesswoman and man. We never think of how you become a successful. It is all dependent upon others. There's nothing that you yourself can be. There's nothing that we can exist without depending upon others. Not at all. Think about the water we drink, the clothes that we wear, the place that we are living in. In other words, one's shelter, one's the house that we are living. It's all dependent upon others. There's no such things that we have occurred ourselves without depending upon others. Not at all. Even when someone who is in a very high official government or government officials, such as ministers, presidents, and so on and so forth, they become a president by depending upon the public, citizens of this country. And then similarly, it goes to the teacher. Teacher become a teacher because of his student. Without depending upon students, there will be what makes the teacher, the, makes someone become a teacher. So this, everything that we have right now is all dependent upon others. This need to be, we need to reflect upon this reality very constantly, even when one is eating, drinking, playing, walking, going and staying, sleeping, and so on. We should always think of that. And if one is able to really place one's mind upon that, everything that I have is dependent upon others, will then really, you know, uh, how do you, it will loosen the grip of self-cherishing mind. And it is the best way of unstabilizing the self-cherishing mind through reflection upon the dependent originations, something that is dependent upon others. And it is really true, everything that we have, it is not something that we acquire independently. Although we often claim that I'm independent, I did it by myself. But if you really think about it very carefully, this is not so. So it's always good to think, and if one is able to really discover this, what everything that I have is dependent upon others, then this will really help us to reduce our self-cherishing mind.
Do you have a question?
Any questions? No?
I have one.
Okay.
It's a small one, nothing complicated. The mantra, Umsaladas, the purification of all things. When he's speaking about the impurities of reality or the interdependent reality of the body being impure, the
when you're doing deity practice, and for instance, when you actually are seeing a field of purity also. So I'm just in question about if there's an impure, then there must be also a pure a pureness too, besides the reality of just impurity.
그래서 지난 동호인의 주체는 수세 소공되게 제 예상하다 마다베라 진행되지 미자웨라 진행되지 그 모인의 주체하고 봤어. 이내 당은 저 패는 저 공백하고요. 딱지 안에 당은 많이 봐. 我们做过学的时候，做过学的方式都是对借鉴，对方面就是太研究了开始考虑啊，你了解大概上就了对接，呀，来研究呀，通过了吧是，对这样的但是，做今年说是手工的，没到未来进去的，没到未来进去效果的，今年过了样子，大概切接也不是，真的是。 같은 수소타입 이렇게 벌어서 다음에 차지해야 했어요. 이게 맨으로서.
제 나데 네레 모스바시다세야 당아도 된다데 되게 뭐가지 단들라는 거라 라이 나주 집에 모스바시다서 모스바요 옴세한테 당아 뭐리지 수바바세한테 랑이래 슈다세 다바래 모스바시다 사와 다르마세한테 사와세 당지 담아세 추래 간다 랑이지 또 미추 담지에 서거래 간다 또 많이 땡거래 근데 그래서나 갈다마나 소수 라이 뭐를 징이라니 동자제 그래 동자제에서 뭐 소소라니 또 많이 고 동반이 공비 지리야 소소를 뢰디네야 되면이 왜도 쉬니 단대대 마다를 뢰디 되면이 왜도 쉬니 그야말로 상담 그래 자 잡고지간에 최대보지 집에 그래 처음 내가 찾는 거도 된나 얘기 되면이 왜도 쉬니 단대 마다를 뢰디 뭐뭐 동자제 그래 막가리야 내가 동자제를 그래야 되네 동배 마을에 신이 아니 대그래 동번이 동번 안에 동번에 소소 주게 되니 대신들이 농생이 돼. 대답지 되니 동번 안에 준비야. 아니 라이브리야. 신이 말 동장 제서 거서 들어가는데야. 되니 얘네 라이 류야 주야래. 되네 라이 주야래 맞다 지금. 먼저 류 맞다 버대 아니 라이 류봐 차네 따바 차네 되네 요 맞다. 마타바데 마타바라래 마타바타바서 이렇게 말다 화야라래 그래서
So here now when it comes to it's the question of deity yoga it is it's relating to the practice of deity yoga. Yeah, Om composed of 3 syllables, which is also known as the initial of the mantra, which represents the pure body, speech, and mind, inseparable pure body, speech, and mind of the deity. Soboha is the nature, and Shuddha is pure, and Saradhamma, Soboha Shuddha again, is Saradhamma is all phenomena, in other words. It's also pure And I am Koham, which is I am the embodiment of the self and all other phenomena. Embodiment of non-inherent existence of self and phenomena. That is what is meant. So now, when we are generating oneself in the form of deity, we're not simply just generating ourselves or transforming ourselves as an ordinary being into the form of deity. This is not the right way of generating ourselves into the form of deity. This is not the right way of deity yoga, practice of deity yoga. So practice of deity yoga must be understood in terms of purifying one's body, speech, and mind within the emptiness. The way in which we purify our body's emptiness is by visualizing our body, melting into a light from tip and from the bottom. And it's all become, once the bodies are melted into a light, and the light itself can be visualized in the form of vacuity. That is, here again, we should not think of something that, non-existence or everything. This is not what we were talking about, vacuity. It is non-inherent existence of that nature of oneself. So now you have visualized yourself in the form of light, which is actually the nature of emptiness. This is actually for emptiness. You are purified your body into the emptiness. And within the sphere of this emptiness, you then become a deity. That is the very brief instructions of the practice of deity yoga. And the very cause of generating oneself into the deity yoga is our very subtle energy and mind, or wind and mind, in other words. And that is what that actually, generating into the deity, transforming oneself into the deity. It is not that our impure body or this ordinary impure body, which is composed of blood, flesh, and bones, transforming into deity, which is not a right way of, for practicing deity yoga. So therefore, deity yoga must be understood in terms of transforming one's body, or in other words, transforming one's body transforming one's body into the emptiness, and the very mind, which is subtle mind, and the energy that realizes that very emptiness, which then becomes a deity. This is what is meant by the practice of deity yoga.
Thank you very much.
We should say the dedication prayers beginning pages 23 and 24, and continuing with auspicious wishes on page 28. Dagi jine sante
Yawadi Dedan Rova Gula Gabena Jebara Jesa Lola Javai Tembe Nibori Loje
Saji Koki
Toshe Bedora Jera Neye Nide Jehani Sanje Yindo Munde Buwai Loge Nanda Yina Jebara
Tewa Kundu
Yanda Lama Dan Dame Juji Pela No Juji Sadanam Ji Yude Radoni Doje Chakyu Kapan Yudo Sho
Idangu
Ranameda Lakane Atayame
Jetsu
Kwasera Tenji Nangatene Juju Jiva Losan Tembi Jume Sansunji Roye Mese Tato Nenjuruji
Kami Rawe
Kore Jimkansu Petan Dewa Mane Juvene Chere Zema Tenzi Jansuyi Yabe Zede Bado Tenjuruji
Champe Pawu
Cheda Chemba Na Godo Zambo Deyante Jite Tera Guji Jizo Nagoji Gewa Deda Tamje Rotomo Juzo Jibe Jawa Tamje Mowa Gana Chodo Nabade Dage Give Savante Guji Zambo Juje Rotomo Waji
Thank you.